Hey, this is Abe Cannon from The Abe Cannon Show, and you're listening to the Friday Sports Riot on SportsTownChicago.com. Go!
Riot on SportsTownChicago.com.
What's up? This is the Friday Sports Riot on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Hoppy.
And I'm Ryan Stuffridge.
To get in contact with the show and get on air with us, it's not too hard. It's 630-403-5200. That is 630-403-5200. And Ryan, where can people find your work online and get involved with you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Stuffridge. That's STUPRICH. You can follow Ryan Hoppy at Hoppy Radio 893.
And on the phone line, you may have heard him if you go to Cubs games. He is the PA announcer at Wrigley Field and the voice of the Chicago Cubs. Andrew Belleson is on the line. What's up, Andrew?
Hey, guys. How are you?
We are doing good. Now, where did you grow up as a kid so people listening to SportsTownChicago.com can know a bit about you?
I grew up in Lombard and went
nice.
to Glenbard East High School.
See, we are here in Lombard, so there's a nice local connection. And were the Cubs the team you watched growing up as a kid?
They were. Yeah, I was a big fan of Harry Carey, and I was a big fan of Mark Grace, because when I played, I was a first baseman also, so he was always one of my favorites. And my whole childhood, I can remember going to the ballpark and rooting for the Cubs, so I definitely grew up a big Cubs fan.
And how did you get the gig as the PA announcer for home games at Wrigley Field for the Cubs?
You know what? I was actually pretty fortunate. They opened it up to a public hire, which is kind of rare for a position like that.
Yeah.
And there was about 3,000 of us that applied, and we did an online demo submission through CareerBuilder.com. And they narrowed it down from the 3,000 somehow down to 25, and we went to the ballpark to do a live audition, where we kind of just ran through what a normal game day would be like. And then from the 25, we went down to the Final Four and did another run-through, and then they made their decision after that.
What did you think of it when you first went to try out? Did you think you ever had a chance, or was this you just trying it just since it's like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Did you ever think this would happen?
You know what? To be honest with you, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
I think... You know, my sister actually called me when she heard that they were hiring.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you know what, it can't hurt to throw your name in the hat. Not thinking really that much of it, because I figured there would be a heck of a lot of people who did apply, and you know, you don't want to get your hopes up. And when I made the first cut down to 25 and went to the ballpark, it was a neat experience just to have that opportunity, like you said. And then after they made the cut down to 4, it kind of became real, and I realized, well, you know, you have a legitimate shot here.
What is it like when you are down to the 4 last people, and you end up getting the gig? What is that moment like in your life where you're like, I'm the next PA announcer for Wrigley Field, a legendary ballpark? What were you feeling at that moment, Andrew?
You know, it was a whirlwind.
Yeah.
I got the phone call early afternoon on the day I got hired and had to be down at the ballpark. My girlfriend and I had to be there in about an hour. So we whipped clothes on and ran down, and it was just crazy. I mean, it hadn't even sunk in yet by the time I had gotten there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I love broadcasting and announcing, so to have any position like that for me was really special. But to do it at Wrigley Field for the Cubs only added that much more for me personally.
And, of course, the Yankees were in town last week, and this is Derek Jeter's last year. What was it like to announce Derek Jeter's name? How awesome was that?
It was awesome. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. For me, it was really awesome. That's one of those guys, you know, I'm 27 years old, so when he was a rookie, you know, you're 8 or 9 years old, and that's one of the guys you grow up idolizing. You know, that's one of my heroes. So to be able to see him play, first of all, was special, but to be able to call his name was really, really cool.
And now people just think that PA announcers have the easiest job. You just get the list of players, and then you announce them. What type of prep goes into each game, Andrew? Please tell our audience.
You know, guys, there's a lot of prep. As you know, being in the industry you're in.
Yeah.
You're not just on the air for a few hours. There's triple the amount of work before you go on. On any given game day, we'll have a static script that essentially is the same, that's filled with sponsor reads and all of our Cubs sponsors that stay in place for the whole year. Pre-game changes daily depending on the game and the series. Different groups are honored, people are recognized, first pitches, etc. In terms of actually getting into the game, I'm a baseball fan, so it's not hard for me. I enjoy doing my homework, so to speak, on the league and whatnot. But it's a huge asset to have a working knowledge, obviously, of the games you're calling.
Yeah.
If I did lacrosse, for instance, it might be more difficult for me because I'm not a huge lacrosse fan, but you still have to, be up to par with everything that's going on.
Are there any announcers you grew up listening to and liking? Because for me, I want to go into talk radio, so I love guys like Howard, Opie, and Anthony Brandmeier. Were there any guys for you that you loved as like baseball announcers or sports analysts?
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a couple of favorites. On the broadcast side, Harry Carey was a huge favorite of mine. I was just drawn to him for whatever reason, even as a kid. You guys know, he kind of just had that. There was a draw to someone like that.
Right.
On the radio side, I think Bob Uecker does a great job still after all these years. He's one of the best and one of my favorites. And I'm partial to Pat Hughes. I think Pat Hughes is one of the best in the business. And I grew up listening to him, so it's really, really neat to work down the hall from him.
Wait, go on.
In terms of PA guys, I guess I'm a little partial, but Paul Friedman and Wayne Messmer, who handled Wrigley duties for years before me, I think they did a great job. I love their style. It's very simple, and it just fit the ballpark. And their voices are the memories I have as a kid going to Wrigley Field.
Do you ever get to talk to any of the guys on the Cubs or the visiting team, and maybe talk to any of the like announcers like Vince Scully or people like that?
The players, not a ton.
Yeah.
Pregame they're doing their thing, and we're kind of getting ours done. We'll get to see them at the convention every year, at the Cubs convention, which is nice. It's fun to chat about this and that. Announcers, because we're right down the hall, and
right.
I don't like to bother guys when they come in, but those guys, that I look up to as a kid, like Bob Uecker, etc. I do like to pop in and say hi because it's a thrill for me to be able to talk to them.
What is it like when you did your first game and you turn on that hot mic and you're broadcasting to everyone at Wrigley Field? What is that moment like for you in your life?
It was, it's hard to describe in words. Yeah. I think opening day for me is one of the most exciting days of the year, period. And I was, as a kid, I went to a few of them, and it was always, of all the games in the year, probably the one I look forward to the most. It's kind of like Christmas in April, and so I was pretty jazzed up anyways. And I think that almost helped in a way because it kind of sidetracked me from realizing that I was working or what I had to do. I wasn't so much nervous or anything like that, but just very anxious. And then once we got through everything and the game started, I was able to settle down. But again, kind of like the day I got hired, to me it was a blur.
Yeah. And now going back to Pat Hughes, what makes him such a great guy on the air? Because I know that he's great because I listen to the radio, but for someone out there listening to Sportstown, Chicago.com that isn't aware of what he does, what makes him so special as a person on the radio?
I think a couple of things for him stand out, in my mind anyway, and you guys might agree or might not or have other points. But first of all, he's so descriptive, and I think that for, when you're listening to him and cannot see the game on television or at the ballpark, he does a better job than you would even if you're watching the game with your own eyes, which I think that's very hard to do. That's a talent that he has. And secondly, he's just so smooth. The broadcast is always smooth. It's even if you're not a baseball fan, you have to appreciate the work he does because it's just such a smooth process. He's a pleasure to listen to.
And before we let you go, Andrew, we wanted to ask you how long you think the Cubs rebuilding process will take before they start to get good and before you start to announce some postseason action for them.
I guess I'm biased because, like I said, I've been a Cub fan forever.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that you can see him turning the corner. The pieces are in place at the lower levels where they need to be in place. And even this year, although, you might not see it with the record as much compared to a couple years, past, it definitely has a different feel, to me anyway. And I think they're right there, and you guys know. I mean, when it happens and they turn the corner for good and are a perennial contender, it's just going to be unbelievable.
Right.
And now, where can people find your work online?
A lot of it is on Cubs.com.
Yeah.
A lot of the pregame ceremonies that we have, for instance, when we honor Derek Jeter with the number 2 from the Wrigley scoreboard, things of that nature are posted on Cubs.com, either through Vineline or through the Cubs.
Well, thanks for taking time to talk to us, Andrew, and have a good weekend, and we'd love to have you on again sometime.
Guys, it was a pleasure. I had the opportunity to listen to some of your podcasts from older shows. You do a great job. It was good talking with you.
Thank you, Andrew. Have a good weekend, man.
Take care.
And that was Andrew Belleson. He is the PA announcer for the Chicago Cubs.
What a cool job.
Oh, I mean, that's like a dream job. He said 5,000 people, Ryan, tried out. I'm going to do the math when we come back from break. 4 divided by 5,000 can't be really good odds. So the fact that he came down to the top 4, and then the other 3 people who didn't get it, put that in your resume. That's insane odds.
And he's only 27 years old. He's only 7 years older than you and I, so that's pretty amazing.
Wow, that makes me feel like young, but it gives me hope because it shows that people who are young in this business have a fighting chance.
Coming up, the Friday Sports Riot.
Coming up on the Friday Sports Riot in about 5 to 10 minutes, we will have Gabe Salgado, who is talking hockey with us yet again.
At 4:20.
Yes, at 4:20. And also at 4:40.
We will have Jake Brown of ESPN Radio on the phone line. And then at 5.
I almost said James Gomez, who we've had on the show before. For some reason that...
You almost said James Brown.
Yeah.
Break it down for us.
And then at 5 o'clock, as we do a lot of times, we'll have Mark Grody from 670 The Score. He'll talk about the Hawks and the NBA playoffs as well. So stick around for Friday Sports Riot on SportsTownChicago.com.
The Friday Sports Riot on SportsTownChicago.com.